A few weeks ago, Disney released the newest Snow White teaser trailer, and it immediately drew massive backlash. Over 850,000 dislikes compared to just 70,000 likes, accompanied by a comment section drenched in outrage. Many now consider this teaser one of the most hated trailers ever. The film embodies everything wrong with Disney in 2024, and though it's devastating to see Disney ruin a classic, watching them bungle it so badly borders on the absurd. To start with, the original plan was to feature Snow White traveling alongside 7 magical, diverse companions who weren't even actual dwarfs. Real dwarf actors objected, accusing Disney of pretending to be inclusive while excluding them from roles that should have been theirs. Disney then switched gears and replaced those actors entirely with CGI dwarfs, an outcome that looks every bit as terrible as you'd imagine. Supposedly a live-action film, it's now so CGI-heavy that it feels like a cartoon. So, how did Disney manage to ruin such a beloved story? How did one of the most treasured movies of all time become so universally loathed? Former Disney fans have endured endless political messaging, virtue signaling, and celebrity grandstanding. While some were willing to tolerate it for other projects, like The Little Mermaid, Snow White became the final straw. The problem started with Rachel Zegler's casting. She seemed to openly dislike the original movie, endorsing all of Disney's extreme alterations.
You know, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so.
As promotion began, she infamously bashed the original as extremely dated in its portrayal of women, and even called the love story creepy and weird. People were stunned at her attitude.
There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Especially since she was taking on one of the most iconic roles imaginable, yet appeared to despise it. Unsurprisingly, fans reacted with anger. Then again, this is the same Disney that's repeatedly shown no regard for the legacies of the franchises it has purchased, or for the fans who made them successful in the first place. Disney tried damage control by having Ziegler dial back her personality, presumably locking her in a PR-friendly environment to appear more respectful of the property. But the harm was done. Her statements were already all over the internet, and no one could pretend otherwise.
I mean, it's so much fun. Like, it goes back down to the root of why these movies were so successful when they came out, is because they captured the human emotion so well.
Yet the backlash runs deeper than one casting choice. People couldn't fathom why Disney would overhaul one of its most iconic classics, the very film that launched Walt Disney's career, just because they deemed it unsuitable for today. At the core, Disney's decisions reflect how little respect they seem to have for their original works. If they truly cared about this timeless film, they wouldn't believe it needed so many drastic changes. One of the most controversial shifts, something fans have heavily criticized, stemmed from actor Peter Dinklage's comments about a backward depiction of 7 dwarfs living in a cave. Many found it odd that someone who had performed in fantasy roles, like in Narnia, Elf, and Marvel films, suddenly had such a strong objection to Snow White. But Disney, eager to avoid any negative attention, chose to replace the dwarfs with magical creatures, effectively wiping out both the classic characters and the unique opportunities for dwarf actors. People were furious that one successful individual's complaint cost 7 others their roles. Then, when leaked photos showed these magical creatures, fans balked at how cheap the costumes looked and how forced the diversity appeared. Disney first denied the images were official, then reversed course and claimed they'd improved the CGI. Nobody, however, expected the final product that dropped last week, and it's somehow even worse than feared. As it happens, Disney's way of avoiding stereotypes was to recreate all the classic characters in CGI, opting for a hyper-realistic yet cartoony look reminiscent of their Pinocchio remake. This choice highlights Disney's ever-growing reliance on CGI, which frequently replaces genuine set design and costuming, leading to a cheap, hollow, and soulless feel that fans have consistently criticized. People aren't upset that CGI is used, it's the sloppy execution that leaves everything looking sanitized and lifeless. Naturally, the entire film looks digital, so it's not surprising viewers are fed up. The trailer's dislike count is enormous, and between the dwarf's mannerisms and the cartoony animal sidekicks, everything looks garishly fake and weightless, a recurring issue for Disney despite their vast resources. While the CGI itself is awful, at least the dwarfs remain somewhat recognizable. Snow White, on the other hand, feels unrecognizable. Sure, she's in the familiar outfit, albeit with Disney's awkward design tweaks, and sings the iconic tunes, but that's all they really preserved. The trailer doesn't show a whole lot, yet combining what's there with Rachel Zegler's renditions of Snow White's most famous songs reveals that the gentle princess everyone adored is missing. In a specific shot where the evil queen asks her mirror who's the fairest, the camera cuts to Snow White raising an eyebrow with a cocky grin. It's subtle, but it bears no trace of the soft-spoken, kind-hearted heroine. She comes off more abrasive and confrontational, and that's even clearer in leaked footage. In the original, when Snow White enters the dwarf's cottage, she sweetly cleans it for them as if caring for orphaned kids. In this version, it's a different story. When the dwarfs come home from mining all day, they don't find a tidy place or dinner waiting, because apparently that would reinforce old-fashioned gender roles. Instead, a smug Snow White is there to tell them to clean up their own space. She seems almost villainous, handing out brooms under a condescending orange glow, more like a wicked stepmother faking niceness so others do her chores. She then dances while the dwarfs do all the work. This leaked scene underscores Disney's typical messaging in its recent projects. There's no clash of kindness versus evil or love versus hate, but rather a push for some notion of female dominance over men. It also shows how Disney seems to only craft one type of female protagonist, the strong woman, ignoring or belittling girls who might crave a simpler life filled with love, compassion, and gentleness. In doing so, they've warped a beloved role model who's guided fans for generations. Although the studio has tried patching some of these issues, it may be too late, leaving Disney with what could be a total catastrophe. And it doesn't stop there. Gal Gadot and Rachel Zegler were polite in their initial interviews, apparently fond of one another. But something shifted between 2023 and 2024. Fans started labeling Zegler the evil queen based on her disrespectful comments about the movie. They also pointed out there's no reason for Gadot's evil queen to feel jealous of Zegler's Snow White, since some people believe Gadot is the more beautiful actress. Right or wrong, Zegler's defensive reactions only inflamed the situation. She came off as self-centered, frequently posting pictures of herself. Quite the contrast to Gadot, who shared a short video clip featuring castmates and crew in a more inclusive, celebratory way. Then, Zegler tweeted thanks to fans before abruptly inserting a Free Palestine statement, which many viewed as a jab at Gadot, an Israeli actress openly supportive of Israel. Due to this political tension, it appears Disney withdrew a D23 promise and cut Gadot's vocal performances from both the final film and the teaser, presumably because of her pro-Israel position. She also began scaling back interviews, possibly out of personal distaste for Zegler, or so the rumor goes. With the main actors seemingly at odds, the audience hating the movie, the production caught in a CGI whirlwind, and hardly any genuine enthusiasm behind it, Snow White is on track to be one of Disney's biggest failures. Clearly, the project suffers from a huge lack of genuine care. They should have done everything to honor the legacy of a story that laid Disney's very foundation. It's almost tragically fitting that the film responsible for redefining Disney decades ago might be the same one that sends it spiraling downward now.